The biggest challenge we face in this region, it's related to peace, security and trust deficit is what Rajnath Singh said. He said the root cause of these problems are increasing radicalization, extremism and terrorism. This was at the SCO Defense Ministers meet. The trust deficit was apparent for all to see. Pakistan, perhaps backed by host China, managed to slip in that reference to Balochistan. And there was no reference to the Pahalgam terror attack. And as you heard the spokesperson for the Ministry of External Affairs, one country seemed to block that reference to terrorism, and no points for guessing it would have been Pakistan. But is not having a joint statement a setback for China? And was India able to negotiate the minefield, and what lies ahead? Joining me now on this India First special broadcast, Dr. Manoj Joshi is a distinguished fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Robinder Sachdev is the Director, India Affairs at the USINPAC. Bhavya Narasimhamurthy is the spokesperson of the Congress Party, and Tuhin Sinha represents the BJP on this broadcast. Dr. Joshi, was it a minefield laid out for India with the reference to Jafar Express in Balochistan and no reference to Pahalgam? Was Mr. Rajnath Singh, the Defence Minister, able to avoid it? In your appreciation, what do you make of there not being a joint statement?
Well, first of all, not having a joint statement is not unusual in such organizations because they go by consensus, meaning everyone must agree. But my point is, why did we then agree to Balochistan in the first place? Meaning, why was Balochistan included? I can understand Pakistan objecting to Pahalgam. So, each organization has a different politics within it. The SCO actually shouldn't, because the SCO is meant to fight terrorism. One of the very important goals of the SCO is combating terrorism. But all I can say is that there was some local politics, individual politics playing their part. Of course, one cannot expect Pakistan to accept the reference to Pahalgam easily. Because I must point out to you that on June 7th, there was a BRICS parliamentary meeting in Brasilia. And our speaker, Mr. Om Birla, had gone for that. And in that meeting, they accepted a reference to Pahalgam. Pahalgam was criticism or condemnation of Pahalgam was accepted there. And who was in the meeting? India, Brazil, Russia, China, South Africa, Iran, UAE, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia.
Correct.
All the BRICS countries. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm not very clear as to what kind of politics played out in the SCO in Beijing, but certainly the presence of Pakistan itself would indicate that there would be no chance that Pahalgam would be accepted.
Robinder Sachdev, a trap laid out for India at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization with this reference to Balochistan, with that Jafar Express, and was India able to avoid that?
Thank you. I mean, I would not exactly think and say it's a trap laid out, but yes, you're so very right. It was an intent to, highlight Balochistan as a region which is infected by terror without any reference to Pahalgam, therefore kind of, indicating that in this region, let's say the South Asia, the greater worry and danger of terrorism is only in Balochistan and nowhere else, that way kind of setting the agenda one. But secondly, on the other hand, even if it was a trap laid out, I think it has come down badly on China, being the host of a summit. And if you're not able to come up with a joint statement, is often looked as being, not a successful summit, so to say, right? And India, to my knowledge, has never before at the SCO, at any of the ministerial conclaves, I think they have, defense, they have other also healthcare and a few others, 4 or 5 other, verticals. India has never kind of stayed out and said that we will not sign on this consensus. India has typically gone along with the consensus, valuing, let's say, regional cooperation over, in some senses, our national interest, because we do see that the regional issues equally affect our national interest. But this
Terrorism
time round, I
affects
think,
everyone. But in this
yeah.
case, anyway, SCO is not supposed to discuss bilateral issues. It's that game that Pakistan was trying to play, perhaps with China, to try and slip in Balochistan and not have Pahalgam reference. And Bhavya, how do you view there not being a joint statement at the end of the defense ministers' meet?
First of all, I would like to appreciate that he did not sign this joint statement. But it's the right time to discuss why this SCO, a very important country like India, did not get its say. Its concerns was not addressed. I honestly believe there are three main reasons for this. One, if you remember, it's been 5 years since India gave a clean sheet to Galwan Valley intrusion by Chinese troops. When PM Modi came out and said there was no intrusion happened at all. After 2 days after External Affairs Ministry had released a statement saying Chinese troops tried to, erect some kind of structure in Galwan Valley on our side of line of actual control. And 20 of our soldiers gave their life to this. And still, the Narendra Modi came out and literally gave clean sheet to China. This was just like, they just take our thing for granted. They'll just take our country for granted. If we do not have a strong prime minister who cannot even acknowledge that 20 of our soldiers have died, and this is because of your intrusion, right? This is the first reason. The second one, we have a trade deficit of $99.2 billion with China today. And to deal with it, we definitely need a leader with some kind of economic respect to Indian economy, at least. We have known about Narendra Modi's economic policies in the past and what a disaster they have been, including demonetization or GST. But with China, this can also be a reason. And recently, during Operation Sindhur as well, China gave open support to Pakistan, whether it is in providing intelligence assistance or satellite assistance or even military and jet. We can totally see why they have the audacity to not include our concern, but include the Balochistan point there.
Okay.
We
Let me bring
definitely
in Tuhin
need
Sinha.
to make a very strong
Tuhin Sinha,
statement and not make
respond.
a disaster out of our diplomacy.
Okay, the Congress
And
says
foreign policy.
the Narendra Modi government has made a disaster of our diplomacy and foreign policy. Respond that the Congress's point is that India stands isolated in a very important grouping like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization.
Well, good evening, Gaurav. Good evening, everybody. The absence of a joint statement, the onus for the absence of a joint statement at SCO squarely lies upon the host. India has made two things very clear. India's stand against terrorism is resolute and unwavering, unlike the trade-off which it is for some of the countries. And number two, India will successfully circumvent any attempts at hypocrisy to rehabilitate Pakistan. Now, the point is, this is a Congress party which had, in similar situations, submitted to the designs of Pakistan and signed the Sharm el-Sheikh. So they should not be lecturing us on foreign policy. You need to realize that even after Operation Sindoor, several countries have openly supported India. That includes Germany, that includes Australia, that includes Japan. In fact, even, countries like UAE, Qatar and Saudi Arabia had been extremely receptive to the arguments made by the diplomatic teams which had gone out, which only shows that our trade engagements with all of these countries would continue. In a kinetic engagement, in a kinetic conflict, in contemporary world, not many countries take an overt stand one way or the other. But you need to realize that there is a perception of India not, getting its way temporarily. It's also because the world is taking its time to come to terms with India's military and economic might. You need to realize that unlike
India's
before
not having it our
2014,
way.
no country can ignore India on the...
But they did.
No, you need to realize that unlike before 2014, no country can ignore India right now because of its economic might.
But they just
and
did.
Therefore,
They just
even
did.
Let me bring in Dr. Let me for a moment. Hold on, Bhavya. I want to bring in Sandeep Puneethan before I bring in Dr. Joshi.
Just 10 more seconds.
Okay. Sandeep, hold on. Sandeep, Is
Just
there
10 more
merit in the
seconds. You know,
Congress saying, hold on,
temporarily-
hold on. There's a lag, please hold on. Sandeep, is there merit in the Congress saying Prime Minister Narendra Modi's diplomacy or his actions vis-a-vis China and Galwan were weak, and that is why China does not take India seriously, and that is why India stood isolated in their view at the SCO Defence Ministers meet?
Absolutely not, Gaurav. I mean, in fact, India has been very clear, very resolute on this terrorism line, at least in the last 11 years. And one of the panelists was referring to the Sharm el-Sheikh declaration. I mean, that was absolute humiliation. I mean, just 9 months after one of the worst terror attacks on Indian soil, 26/11, you had the Prime Minister, signing off on a joint statement with the Pakistani Prime Minister where he admits that Pakistan is also a victim of terror. He brings Balochistan into the statement just to please the Pakistanis. This is, never happened. This kind of shameful joint statement at a time when your citizens have been murdered. And this is something that Defense Minister Rajnath Singh did not sign off on today. And this statement that India has made, Gaurav, on cross-border terrorism was not just here at the SCO, but at the United Nations as well. A similar line was taken by India, which called out Pakistan for state sponsorship of terror and cross-border terror. So we've been very consistent. In the last 24 hours, we've called out Pakistan on 2 different forums for cross-border terror. And this was not the stance that we saw earlier, where there were all kinds of efforts to mollycoddle Pakistan and try and do business with them over the dead bodies of Indians.
Let me bring in Dr. Joshi to weigh in on this. Dr. Joshi, you heard the Congress party spokesperson, you heard the BJP spokesperson. Is there merit in the Congress saying that post-Galwan, India's stance was weak, and that is why countries like China don't take us seriously? There's also the issue of the trade deficit, and that is how Pakistan is able to slip in references like Balochistan, which of course was not agreed to by Rajnath Singh, and the BJP saying this wasn't a disaster like in Sharm el-Sheikh, where Dr. Manmohan Singh had accepted a reference to Balochistan. It didn't happen in 2025.
Well, let me start with the end. I think they are right when they said that we definitely got into the back foot by the Sharm el-Sheikh acceptance. Meaning we thought we were doing something nice, but turned out to be a bit of a disaster, diplomatic disaster. Now, insofar as Galwan and other things are concerned, it is true that we were taken by surprise. It is true that we were taken by surprise. But thereafter, the government strategy involved trying to build down the crisis. And I think at that point in time, if to say that you've been invaded or something has happened would have been a problem. And I think that was not true, because what the Chinese really did was not to actually invade in that sense, but to establish blockades. They established blockades and they prevented our patrolling in places which we also have claim along the LAC. So it is a different kind of a situation. But when it comes to the present thing, I think Rajnath Singh is right, because there are strong. This country has extremely strong feelings about what happened in Pahalgam. And as I told you earlier, this SCO is meant to be, or SCO, if you look at its charter, there's a whole lot about fighting terrorism. They have counter-terrorism exercises and that kind of stuff. So terrorism is an important element of the SCO charter, and therefore to not include Pahalgam, I think straight away was travesty. Now the point is that in SCO meetings, it works on consensus. I mean, one member says no, it's no. And that one member, is the guilty party, is the party responsible for Pahalgam. So you can hardly, it would have been really surprising, if I may put it that way, if Pakistan had actually agreed to condemning itself. You see? So if you take it that way, so I can understand why Pakistan did what it did. But I think the other SCO members could have come out with a stronger statement. As I told you, it depends from institution to institution. In the case of the SCO, it is something which works by consensus.
Purely by
And,
consensus. But should India, Rubinder Sachdev, and that's the point, Dr. Manoj Joshi is also alluding to, should India have used its diplomatic might to convince other members to make a stronger case on Pahalgam, or because China and Pakistan have this tango, India perhaps decided it's not worth wasting your breath, but there was no reference to Balochistan either. So it's no win India, it's no win Pakistan.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's complex. And, let's go back. I think what India has done by, not signing on to the communique today has reminded the SCO, as Dr. Joshua is saying, the founding principles of the SCO, I think within the Article 1, is a focus on territorial integrity, regional security, cross-border terrorism, no radical extremism to be spread. That is the founding basis of the SCO, because it's the Central Asian countries, Russia and China on one side, and India, etc. So that's the founding principle of the SCO. So if the SCO, I think today's act by India is a reminder for the SCO to go back to the basics. And
so it's
also
advantage India. That's the point you're trying to make. It's advantage India that, Pakistan was not able to bring in that Balochistan point, and India was able to send across that message that, RATS as an organization, part of SCO, is all about countering terrorism and having a rapid response to terrorism. But Bhavya Narasimha Murthy respond to the BJP saying, Dr. Manmohan Singh, when he was Prime Minister, within months of the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, he buckled, he agreed to a reference to Balochistan at that Sharm el-Sheikh agreement, which was a disaster with Pakistan. But in 2025, Rajnath Singh did not buckle, and there was no acceptance of reference to Balochistan or Jafar Express. So, when you say the Congress, the BJP was weak, the BJP is hitting back and saying it's actually the Congress that was weak. This time they were stronger.
First, I would like to address two issues before I come to this. Mr. Joshi made a statement about Galwan Valley. So I would like to remind you that 2 days before Narendra Modi gave a clean sheet to China, the Ministry of External Affairs gave out a statement to the press saying Chinese side sought to erect a structure in Galwan Valley on our side of LAC. It was not just the petroleum thing. They had tried to erect a structure in our side of LAC. This was a statement by the government, after which they took a U-turn and Mr. Modi gave a clean sheet. Second thing, I would like to address the BJP spokesperson when he spoke about Operation Sindhur. The very fact that an American president comes out and claims, the credit for the ceasefire shows what India has come to. 14 times. And Narendra Modi couldn't even make a statement against it to the people of India and answer us regarding it. Second thing, the terrorists who were responsible for the attack in Pahalgam, they're still roaming free, alive. Third thing, we could not even stop the IMF from giving loans to Pakistan at the same time when this terrorist attack happened and Operation Sindhur was in place. Fourth, the very fact that we had to send a delegation to convince other countries of this world that, we have to claim the victory. Pakistan is celebrating its victory. I don't think this has ever happened in the history of India. Every time we won a war with Pakistan.
Ma'am, you still haven't answered my question, and I asked you a very specific question. I asked you a very specific question you haven't answered. So you have 30 seconds if you want to answer that.
You want to claim, okay, just because Dr. Manmohan Singh said, yes, Pakistan is also a victim, does not mean he said Pakistan did not sponsor terrorism here. As a world leader, he might have acknowledged that. But here in SCO, we literally failed to even, let the other countries, which amounts to 30% GDP in the world and 40% population, to even acknowledge Pahalgam attack. Do you realize how weak we sound? How weak we look in front of the world?
You want to quickly respond before I bring in Dr. Manoj Joshi?
It's not like we said no. It's not like...
Well, Gaurav, it seems it seems that the Congress spokesperson is extremely ignorant of the quantum of damage which Sharm el-Sheikh had done to India. Manmohan Singh did not accept that that Pakistan is a victim of terrorism. He allowed for India's role in Balochistan to be examined. So I think, the Congress party needs to educate her about the quantum of damage which Sharm el-Sheikh has caused. Now, they keep talking about Trump. Trump may have spoken about this 14, 15 times that he brought about a ceasefire, but at least on 2 or 3 occasions he himself has changed his version. Please don't barge in between. Please don't barge in between. Have some basic courtesy when I didn't intervene when you were talking. Have some basic courtesy. Of the 14 occasions where Trump may have claimed credit for ceasefire, at least on 2 or 3 occasions he himself has said, "Oh, I only tried to help." And please understand, we are not obligated to answer President Trump each time. We have spoken about the issue enough number of times. The first time,
Oh my God.
Gaurav, can you ask her to behave herself, please? This
You
is
are
an
obliged
important
to
issue. This is
answer the
one by
Indian
one.
people.
Madam-
Indian
important
people
Madam-
deserve an answer, not Trump.
Okay, madam, let him complete his point. I'll come back to you.
Please, this is not the Congress office. This is not the Congress office where you can peddle anarchy.
Go on, sir. Complete your
Gaurav,
point,
as
sir.
early as on 12th May, Prime Minister Modi in his address to the nation, on 12th May had absolutely made it clear that the ceasefire was because of Pakistan reaching out to us through DGMO. If Congress party chooses to trust President Trump over us, it's a choice they have to make. We also need to remember that in any case during the Doklam crisis, Rahul Gandhi had more trust in Chinese embassy. He would go there to dig out information. He would not reach out to our defense minister. So we know the character of this Congress party. I don't think we can take them seriously on national security issues.
Sir, since you've made a direct reference to the Congress party, before I bring in Dr. Manoj Joshi and Sandeep, madam, you want to respond?
Can I?
Yes, please.
Yes. The very fact that you think we expect Trump to answer or, we are taking him seriously. No, you don't have to answer Trump, but you are obliged to answer the people of India. When an American president claims at a global stage, it is the duty of his counterpart, the Prime Minister of India, to come out and say, no, this wasn't the case. But did he do that to the people of India? No, not once. And we requested a special session on this, on Operation Sindoor and Pahalgam. Did he even agree to that? Did he have the courage to, have a special session?
Can I quickly respond,
no,
please?
he did not.
Okay,
We
I want to bring in
expected an
Sandeep. Give me a
all-party
moment as I bring in
meeting
Sandeep into this conversation.
Will be attended by the Prime Minister, but he did not. He did not.
Okay.
It takes courage to do
To
all
Insana,
that.
30
10
seconds.
seconds.
Only 30
Face
seconds. Go
Indian
on, sir.
public and
Just
come
10
on,
seconds.
At least one
Yes.
press
Yeah.
conference. At
You know,
least
I
one press
mentioned the
conference.
Ma'am, you
date.
made your point.
Gaurav,
Yes.
I mentioned, I mentioned, Gaurav, I mentioned, I specifically mentioned the date. I specifically, please, it's my 30s. I specifically mentioned the date, 12th May, his address to the nation. Please watch that 20-minute video on YouTube and you will get your answers. Even 10 days ago, our Foreign Secretary, Mr. Misri, after Prime Minister's conversation with Trump, again repeated the exact content of the conversation. If the Congress party has difficulty in comprehending information given out by Indian government and they choose to trust President Trump, it's a choice, like I said, which Congress party has made.
Okay.
How are we
Perfect.
responsible and answerable for that?
Sandeep,
This is
was
so
a bigger
laughable. I tell
diplomatic
you,
outreach
this is
required to SCO members, to BRICS members? Yes, it's been made to the United Nations and to United Nations Security Council non-permanent members when diplomats went out and political leaders went out. Is a bigger outreach required? Or is India able to send across the message loud and clear?
No, absolutely, Gaurav. A bigger outreach is needed to organizations like the BRICS and the SCO, particularly the SCO, because as you just mentioned, SCO, one of the founding principles of the SCO is the RATS, right? The Regional Anti-Terrorism section. Now, that is something that is so fundamental to SCO, and you have a country like Pakistan, which has been called out for being a state sponsor of terrorism across the world. Everybody knows it, but for some reason, for countries like China, Pakistan always finds a place in these organizations. Pakistan is defended at the United Nations. Its state sponsorship of terror has been protected by China. You remember the number of times China blocked our attempts to get Maulana Masood Azhar declared an international terrorist. Someone everybody knows is a terrorist. China would veto all of those attempts by us. So there is clearly a need for us to step up our game and talk to our friends
Dr.
at the
Joshi, a
SCO
lot more is
and
required
BRICS.
to be done to isolate Pakistan, because whether it's General Asim Munir having lunch at the White House or the kind of support Pakistan gets from China, opposite ends of the spectrum, Pakistan is able to interact and get itself close to Russia, to America, and to China.
Well, that is the history of Pakistan. Meaning since 1950, we have been seeing that Pakistan has just one end in view, which is how do we maintain effective parity with India? Effective parity. There can't be real parity. Now, towards that end, it has done all sorts of things. Number one, external alliances. Number two, very high military spending. Number three, made nuclear weapons. Number four, supported terrorism. It has used these four-pronged kind of a spear to keep on attacking India. And that is why we can never pin down Pakistan. And the problem is, of course, Pakistan wants all this. But simultaneously, if you look at countries like the US and UK, they have long seen Pakistan as being important for their goals in the Middle East as well as Central Asia. Don't forget
So
that the
the
UFO
geographical
flight.
location, absolutely. You know, I've run out of time on this part of the show. It clearly indicates that India will need to up our game to checkmate a state sponsor of radical Islamist terror, that Pakistan continues to remain. Operation Sindoor was a very important first step, but a lot more needs to be done. To all my guests, many thanks for joining me.